G'day and welcome to another video with Better Picks. Hope this finds you all really well. Today we're going to have a look at color grading within Adobe Lightroom. Now color grading, to give it a bit of a definition for those who are unsure, is the process of giving your image or footage a particular look. Now it's not to be confused with color correcting, which is what you would define as correcting any color or tonal or contrast issues that you may have with your image or footage. So color grading, as I mentioned, is the process of giving your image or footage a particular look. And it's a process that's been derived out of filmmaking, where films are given a particular look based on what the creator is hoping to achieve and how they want their film to look. All right, let's have a look at Lightroom, the process of applying a color grade. If we look over on the right-hand side, we can see that we have a color tab and we have a sub-tab called color grading. And if you just hover over there, you can see that it comes up with a definition. So color grading allows you to stylize your photo by adding color tints to the shadows, midtones, and highlights. Explore applying complementary colors that are on the opposite side of the color wheel to the shadows and highlights. For example, use a color blue in the shadows and a warmer yellow in the highlights. Fantastic suggestion. Let's have a look at doing exactly that. So as you can see with color grading, there are three wheels which give you the option to add color to the midtones, shadows, and highlights, as the description described. Now, before we do this, what we're going to do is just give our image a very quick edit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to pop up to light. We're just going to add a little bit of contrast. The image that you saw originally had no edits applied to it. We're just going to drop the highlights a little bit just to soften those highlights in the brighter areas, particularly the rim around her forehead and on the clothing here, and also over here on the right hand side. Just going to pop the shadows just a tiny bit, and we're just going to adjust the exposure. If we come down before we get to the color grading, we're just going to add a little bit of warmth and a little bit of vibrance, up around plus 30. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, before we go ahead and use the color grading option within this image, we're actually going to switch over to another image, which is just a gradient on a single file from black to white. And what this is going to do is allow us to have a look at the color grading process and how different colors are applied to different tonal values of a particular image. This is just a little bit of a simpler way to look at the effect that you're going to get. Often with images, because of the complexity of what goes into images, it can be a little bit difficult to actually see the effects. So this method just allows us to explore that a little bit simply to begin with, and then obviously we can work back with our image and create that final edit. All right, so what we're going to do for the shadows is we're just going to drop this down into the blue, as that suggestion, maybe a little bit of teal. And in the highlights, we're going to pop that into orange. Now, this is a very popular look, with films where you have the teal and orange, and it does create a very recognizable look that you often see in Hollywood and feature films. All right, so you can see I've put the extreme color there, so it's quite strong in the shadows, quite strong in the highlights. But it certainly helps us to understand exactly what all of that means. Now, if we look at the midtones, and we're just going to go for a very different color, we're going to go with the green, just so that it's a little bit different to the other two colors that we've already applied. You can see with the midtones, it is applying that green to the midtones, and we have that transition of blue to green up into orange in the highlights. What you'll also notice is an extreme white and black, so absolute white and absolute black. There is no color applied. So it's only where you have tonal values within your image that are not at that absolute black and absolute white end. Very important to understand. For the next part of the color grading tab that we're going to have a look at, we're just going to get rid of that midtone. So we're just going to double click that to remove any color. And we're going to have a look at the blending and balance options down the bottom. Now, blending, what we'll do with this as well is go to the extremes, just so that for the sake of demonstration. Blending is the softness of transition between the colors. So if we go all the way to the left, you can see that it creates quite a strong definition between that teal on the darker side and the orange on the on the wider side. Now, all the way to the left makes a harder transition between colors, as you can see. And if we go all the way to the right, it softens that transition between the colors as well. All right, let's double click that one and just take it back to the middle. Balance basically is the balance between what color is applied to the dark areas and what color is applied to the bright areas. So if we go all the way to the right, then that color from the bright areas is going to become more dominant. As you can see, it bleeds further into the darker areas. And if we go all the way to the left, you can see the color applied to the shadows becomes more dominant and bleeds further into the brighter areas. So we're going to leave that balanced at 0. And the blending we're going to leave balanced in the inside as well. If we head up to the top of the color grading tab, you can see that this just gives us a little bit of a hand with options around the layout of the tab. So at present, we are looking at all three: shadows, highlights, and midtones. We can look at just the shadows, just the midtones, and just the highlights. And that just basically allows us, with those color wheels being a little bit bigger, to be able to make finer adjustments if we want to. It also gives us an option down the bottom with luminance where we can darken the particular area that we're editing. In this case, it's the highlights. You can see if we darken that down, the highlights go down from pure white down to a lower toner value. Or if we go up, you can see it goes into a pure white or closer to a pure white, and there's less color being applied. That's exactly the same for the midtones and shadows as well. Now, we also have on this little tab on the right hand side a global application where we can apply color to the entire image if you just want to make a quick adjustment, which is a great option to have as well. For now, we're going to stick with those three color wheels so that we can make adjustments to shadows, highlights, and midtones. And we're going to head back to our original image, and we're going to do exactly the same. So we're going to apply that teal sort of color to the shadows. Now you can see, unlike the sample gradient that I did before where we did extreme color, you can see with an actual photograph, I'm only applying a small amount, but it's really having quite an effect on the image. And you can see that teal color start to creep into the shadow areas. There we go. All right, so for the highlights, we're going to go into that orange. And you can see the brighter parts of the image, particularly the main part of this woman. You can see that that orange is being applied nicely. Now, given that a lot of the tones in this area of the image for the subject itself are around the middle tones, we're going to apply a little bit of orange there as well. Now, you'll notice that this is having a far greater effect, so I'm going to apply a little bit less than what I was for the highlights. All right, so yeah, that's really nice. I don't want to overdo it because you can start to get blocky sort of color, and it can just look like it's been too edited, for want of a better word. So I'm just going to just minimize that a little bit. I'm actually going to go back up to our normal editing tab as well. I'm actually going to go up to our normal edit tab as well, and I'm just going to drop the saturation just a little bit, just to help with the look of this image. There we go. It's only minimal, it's not much, but it's just adding to the look and effect that I'm hoping to achieve. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that result. So you can see we've applied a little bit of teal in the shadow areas. As I mentioned, you can see it coming out in this area and over in this side of the image. And the highlights and the midtones, we've applied a little bit of orange, and that's just giving us a lovely transition between those midtone and highlights right through to the shadow areas of that different color tone through the use of the color grading tab. It's a fantastic tool. It's a tool that you would normally see with video editing, and the color wheels is the process that you would apply looks or make color corrections within most video editing platforms. But it is a tool that's obviously been available with still photography editing platforms like Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw in recent years. And obviously now it's available with Adobe Lightroom as well, which is a really good thing. So I'm pretty happy with the results of that image. It's certainly where I want the edit to be. Thank you for stopping by. As always, any questions are welcome in the comments below. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.